Hello, everybody. It is great to be here one more time today. My name is Gary Fowler, and I'm the CEO, president, and founder of GSD, Get Shit Done Venture Studios, a premier AI and quantum venture studio located in the heart of Silicon Valley. I'm a 17-time serial entrepreneur with several unicorns under the belt. I was on the original management team of Click Software, which was sold to Salesforce for $1.35 billion, and also Eva.ai. At GSD, we believe that intellectual capacity is evenly spread around the world, but opportunities are not. And with that, I have an incredible guest today. Jason Touhey is a graduate of the University of Central Florida and works in the area of sovereign assets, a company dedicated to tokenized, super affordable, yet hurricane resistant. Oh, love that. Real estate. He's got a background in technology and education. He spent over 13 years, empowering students and advancing blockchain innovation. His involvement in crypto space, co-founding SEMPROs NFTs and the World Conference.io showcases his commitment to financial sovereignty. His work is driven by his passion for balancing excellence with a strong dedication to family life. And yes, he loves counseling and collecting. So with that, I'd love to bring him on board. Hey, Jason, how are you today?
Hey, Gary, how are you? Good morning.
Good. Now, I know you're a collector. What's your favorite? What do you like collecting the most?
I like to collect rare games and rare consoles mostly. And I like to collect Bitcoin scoop up as much as I can in those future tradings.
That's great. So so what's the number one? If you look at the holy grail of gaming, what's the number one game?
The holy grail in gaming. That's a really, really tough question. That's a loaded question. I'd have to look around at my collection to really think about that. But I do have a Street Fighter 2 a collectible. There's only, I believe, 2,500 of these boxes, and it's probably my favorite item in my collection, I would say.
Now, do you play these games?
Sometimes, occasionally, I don't really play games as much as I used to. I just don't really have the time or the interest in it as much as, just several years ago, really. But yeah, not as much.
And so you went to the University of Central Florida. Did you do a lot of gaming when you were there?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I spent pretty much my entire time playing video games when I was there, to be honest with you.
Well, that's good. And what did you learn from playing the video games?
I learned that patience is key. Um, Trying to rush and be quick about things is typically not a great approach. Sitting back, waiting, and learning is definitely more valuable than trying to push things too rapidly.
Interesting. So tell us a little bit about where you are today, and you talk about Bitcoin. We talk about this ability to be able to create tokenization of what do you mean by super affordable hurricane resistant real estate? What is that? Single
Yeah,
family homes? Are you talking about condos? What are you talking about?
so it's kind of all the above. But first of all, before I jump in there, I really wanted to say thank you for presenting at the World Web3 conference. And how generative AI is shaping our future, how AI can help us solve some of the most complex issues that we're facing as a society, and very rapidly at that. And by the way, I love the upfront company name, Get Shit Done. It seriously resonates with my persona and my partners. And I've always got these weird marketing ideas that seem slightly inappropriate. And then I see a company name like that, and it gives me the courage to kind of do and say the things that I really want to do and say. So thank you for that. I really appreciate
No,
you
thanks, Jason. I mean,
coming out there.
when I did that, when I put this together, we were at, if you look behind the desk of Mark Zuckerberg, it says "Get Shit Done." I
Yeah,
started to think about it. That's what it's all about, right? Because you can talk all the rest of your life, but it's about getting shit done.
exactly. Yeah, you just have to put the effort in, right? So going back to your question, essentially what we're building here is different options. We have homes that we can make of steel. We can make them out of graphene concrete that are pretty much 100% self-efficient, whether it's water, electricity, the whole nine yards. And then we have modular styles where we can actually stack the modules side by side and build towers. So there's different ways of going about this. It just depends on the construction company. So basically, what sovereign assets is kind of like a syndicate of construction companies, and we're gonna tie all these assets to a unique crypto token. So we're gonna outline, our construction methods, the investment opportunities, the long-term vision, and the goal here is to build cost-effective housing solutions globally. It's not just here in the United States. We know that there's a big issue here with affordable housing, right? And we really feel like we can build homes very rapidly, but affordable using these techniques.
No, you're right about it. I mean, that's one of the challenges. The other thing is to how to deal with the climate crisis, right? We got average temperatures around the world are going to could dramatically change as early as 2025 because of the meridional shift, the Atlantic current slowing down. So the average temperatures in places like Florida could actually go down 15 degrees Fahrenheit over a 10-year period of time. And in places south of the equator could go up. So we've got to have these flexible, resistant, things like modular homes, having the ability to be able to make them in a factory, do them in a couple of weeks and put them out and then stack them with a forklift. By the way, or not forklift, but a crane.
Right.
I've built a few of those. So, and big ones too. So 6-box modular homes where you've got, 3 boxes and 3 boxes on the bottom. Those kind of things we need to think about because it can control the quality of the construction. You can have you don't have to worry about the elements when you're out there, whether or not they're going to hurt the construction. What about this thing like graphene? What are you talking about there? It's how does that work?
So graphene is basically a concrete mixed with carbon nanotubes. I'm not sure if you're too familiar with that, but
No, I'm not.
yeah. So carbon nanotubes is basically stronger than diamonds. It's one of the strongest materials on Earth. You could technically build a space elevator out of that stuff if you wanted to. Um, so it's something you'd have to look into to really understand how it's developed and how it's created. But what's really cool about graphene concrete is that for every square foot you can generate 1 watt of power. So the more sunlight that hits the actual concrete generates, it becomes like a self-sustaining unit, essentially, like a solar panel.
Wow, that's amazing. And have you done have you built many houses before? How much do you know about construction?
So I actually took construction management courses when I was at UCF, and I also worked in AutoCAD designing towers, so blueprint reading, that kind of stuff. That was kind of my early in construction, and I've only built a couple of homes myself, but the home building side that's on the GCs, that's on them, that's their thing, right? I understand so much, but my thing is to make sure that we're tokenizing these assets, and that we're bringing in investors and making passive income streams.
And so when you look at this tokenization, there are companies like Propi out there that are doing tokenization. How do you differ from them?
So it's my understanding that what they do really right now is a lot of paperwork. So obviously, when you're buying and selling a home, you have stacks. You've gone through that process where you sign 10,000 pages, right? Initial, sign. And they've tokenized all of that. I know that they are working on some similar things. I know they're creating a REIT. Um, they're doing things. I just don't know exactly, other than their tokenized paperwork. I really don't know what else they're into.
And so how do if you look at the market, what kind of appetite's out there for this type of a way of the tokenization? What do you think?
I would say that there's a lot of interest. Um, I mean, tokenization allows the real estate assets to be divided into smaller fractional shares. So you can basically get investors that can own a portion of the property rather than just having to buy your entire asset, which can be very costly. So that kind of makes the real estate investment more accessible to a broader audience.
Interesting. And so if you look at it, what's the future hold in terms of who are they going to be the investors? Are they going to be large investors, small investors? Who's going to be investing in these kind of assets?
It's really a mixed bag, and it also depends on the size of the property. But we're targeting accredited investors here in the United States, and then we want to basically open up the door to anybody globally. Um, but they'll have to pass a KYC in order to actually invest in the
And
US.
tell the audience, what's an accredited investor?
An accredited investor is basically someone that the Security Exchange Commission says that they can invest a certain amount of money. Now, in companies, right, properly. That amount of money, I don't recall off the top of my head. I believe you could tell me the answer. It's probably a couple $100,000, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, so I don't know what it is today. I don't want to misspeak on it, but
Yeah,
the
me neither.
situation is it's not only it's about how much you're worth and then how much what kind of income you have. And so
Exactly.
that's great. So if you look at it and you what kind of assets you say hurricane resistant, why is that? Are you going to focus on Florida or where are you going to be focused?
Yeah, so the steel homes that we were looking at when we first started this concept, they are designed to be Cat 5 hurricane resistant, and they can also be elevated, so you can build them on the beach. Essentially, that's kind of why the whole idea came about. So they're extremely strong because they're made of steel, and the steel doesn't rust. So you could throw the elements at these homes, and they're still standing tall, and which is great for insurance purposes, and that's something that people along the coast are dealing with right now. Their insurance rates just skyrocketing, because of
Yeah, no, you're right
storms.
about it, and it's not doesn't look like it's going to be going down anytime in the near term, especially with global warming, right?
Absolutely not. And if the elements get more extreme, then it just gets more expensive, essentially.
Well, this year, from the highest recorded forecast for storms was 1996, and this year it's forecasted there are over 30 storms, so it's actually three times the amount that the highest number forecasted in history, which is 1996, because of the thing with global warming, which is this year for Florida. I think there's
Yeah.
34 named storms. So I believe 34 is what this year is. So we're as we start going forward, you look at the average temperatures around the world rising. You look at the sea levels going up 6 to 8 inches over a 100-year period of time. I mean, this thing, it's not like is it happening? It's how much is it happening, and what kind of impacts are going to have on us. So if you look at these structures, what's the difference between a hurricane resistant structure, Jason, and one that's not hurricane resistant?
Well, in traditional building models, you have houses that are made of wood framing. A lot of the houses here in Florida, they have block on the bottom and then wood framing on the top. You see that pretty often. And to me, it's almost like a scapegoat. Like, it's cheap to me. Like, I don't understand why we're not building everything out of concrete here, especially if we're so susceptible to major storms
Well, you
coming
would
in, right?
think because
Right?
they're a lot stronger than a stick-built house, right?
Yeah.
Especially like aerated concrete and some of the other things that are out there that have insulation capabilities. You would think, um, but yeah, that's an interesting point. And then the weakest link on a house is a roof, right? You look at the roof,
Yes.
and you've got these trusses and everything. You can have concrete on the sides, but your roof gets blown off.
Yeah, exactly. So essentially, with what we want to do is not only just build, obviously, these hurricane resistant homes, that we also want to make them luxurious and affordable too. We can make super nice houses and for half the cost of what it would normally cost. Um, in this model, what we're trying to do is essentially increase liquidity. Traditional real estate investments are often pretty liquid, right? So meaning they can't be easily sold or exchanged for cash without substantial loss in value. And tokenized real estate can be traded on secondary markets, essentially. So you're providing investors with greater liquidity and the ability to quickly adjust the investment portfolio. It creates a lower barrier to entry, um, for the minimum investment threshold. Tokenization enables more people to invest in real estate in at large.
So how does
Um,
it work though, Jason? Let's say they'll paint a picture for us. Let's say there's a house. How would it work in terms of the tokenizing? Who owns that house?
yeah, so that's kind of the question that we have run into quite often in creating and developing our white paper, because there's a couple of ways we can go about it. What we could do is we could literally build a tower or a home and just make it a rental property and then divvy it up the tokens and figure out, okay, what's the property's value, how many tokens are we going to sell, and go from there. Or we could literally just build a tower and then sell the property, and then it's like, all right, well, what's the point of even having tokenization, right? So
Right.
I think it only really makes sense in a rental model. I'm still trying to work out the fine details to make it make sense if people are actually owning the title, because people want to own stuff, right? And so
Well, I mean,
you-
unless you had it set up so they're based on the future value of that property, right? So you had it
and
set up where, they would get a piece of it, and then if the price of it goes up, 3x, they get a, part of that. So there could be, because you could reduce the cost of the house, the initial cost of the house, with, and then basically divvy up the upside based on that. So I don't know how many people would do that just to get a cheaper price on a house. I mean, it's almost like when you lease a car, right? So you could have it set up like that. So basically, you get into it. That could be interesting. I think so I get it with the rental side. That seems doable. And I think tokenization, but how do you go down through, and then how would you sell the property? Let's say it's time to sell it. Who makes a decision to sell the property?
so that really just depends on whether it's a rental or if it's, we just sold it
It's a
flat out, right?
rental. Well, let's
Yeah.
just say it's a rental. Let's say you've got all these tokens out there. Who's going to make the decision on whether the property can be sold or not? Or is it going to be, forever rented, and you can't really do anything with it? So the value goes down because you can't ever sell it.
Yeah, exactly. And again, these questions pop up in this model. And so really what we would like to do is kind of create a decentralized autonomous organization where people can vote whether they want to sell the property or not. Or what we could do is automatically, have it written in the agreement or the DAO that if it reaches a certain threshold, maybe it gains 50% or 100% in value. And then it's like, all right, well, let's go ahead and sell it and divvy up the property. So there's different things we could do to try to make it work. um, I personally think that if it reaches a certain threshold, it might make more sense to just sell it. But if people are making passive income, there might be a disagreement there. So I think that creating a kind of like a board of voting rights is probably essential in this type of model.
A board of voting rights. So basically, the board makes a decision on sell it, and how do you make like a HOA almost, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
Yeah,
Uh,
I think that makes the most sense. But again, it's one of those things we could throw out an AI model and just see what it spits out for ideas and throw it around, toss it around.
so how close are you with this?
I would say my white paper is about 90% complete. It's really what's really held me back is the Security Exchange Commission and the laws that really don't, apply. I mean, in America, we're so coddled. We have this system in place where they're trying to protect us, but in reality, it's kind of holding us back, and it's created a massive headache for me to create a token offering or an ICO or this model in general in the United States, just because the Security Exchange Commission wants everyone to be accredited. They want KYC, which is fine, that makes sense, but there's just so many roadblocks and hurdles that I've been trying to get over. It's like, yeah, we can, in theory, throw around this idea all day, but can we actually put it into motion legally? That's the
Yeah, without getting
real
in
battle.
trouble.
Exactly. And we want to do things the right way, especially when we're bringing in massive investors.
And how much interest is there from the investment side? Are they interested in this kind of the concept? Have you talked to people about it?
I have, and what I've noticed is a lot of the people that I've been speaking to are GCs or builders, and they once they hear tokenization or fractionalization, their ears, they perk up, and they come alive and they want to get involved. So I am seeing a ton of interest. I haven't really spoken to the VC side of things or anything like that, but I can tell you from the builder's perspective, they are highly interested. From
Mhm.
the feedback that I've been getting, every conversation that I have, people are just like they want to get involved. Like, how do we get involved? So there's definitely interest there. I can tell you that much is for sure, at least from my end.
No, that's great. So tell us a little bit about the worldconference.io. So tell us a little bit about that, because I know that's
Yeah,
one of the things that you're doing.
yeah. So the World Web3 Conference basically is a platform where we teach people, individuals, businesses how to implement Web3 technology in their everyday life and business. We set out to develop that conference to be as educational as possible, but we also wanted it to be a lot of fun too, right? So that's pretty much it in a nutshell. Whether you want to implement AI tech, blockchain, NFTs, crypto, whatever it is you want to implement in your in your business, or you just want to learn the ins and outs of the industry. That's what we set out to do, and that's why I brought you in to talk about AI and how useful it is and getting shit done right as quickly as
No, I
possible.
mean, from the time we were together till now, I mean, it's in my world, it's fundamentally changed. Everything's changed, and what Nvidia's $2.5 trillion, $3 trillion company today. It's amazing, and we're just at the beginning of this. We scratched the surface because it's going to change everything.
Yeah, absolutely. When I was in high school, I had a economics teacher make us had us put together portfolios for stocks, and Nvidia was one of those. And I had invested, and I'm 38 now, so I had invested $500 back then. I can only imagine what that portfolio must look like right now. I got to jump on Yahoo Finance and check that out. It should be interesting. And I hear they're about to split, so
They
that
did
should
split
be. They did already? Oh wow, okay. So,
yesterday, 10 to 1.
10 to 1. Jeez.
It's funny
Incredible.
because 5 years ago, I spoke to Jensen. I've known him for years, actually.
Oh,
And we had a conversation about my company, Eva. We're talking about how we could work together and those kind of things. And I remember taking my MBA students to see him 12 years ago. So I remember we were sitting in his office having lunch, talking to my students. And it was actually one of the nicest guys you would ever want to meet, really, and totally focused on the vision. And this thing of creating we've got all these incredible tools out there, but we need the power behind it to be able to make it work. And having those GPUs that Nvidia has, I mean, he's really captured the market. It's interesting because I had a conversation with him, and I said, "How did you get started?" He said, "I was in an arcade, and I looked at the graphics on these in the arcade, and I said, when were the graphics? Why don't we have these on PCs?" And so that's how I get started on it. And if you remember, Nvidia were boards for PCs at the time, and just migrated forward. But now look at the world, how much it's changed.
oh,
And now
absolutely.
he's powering everything. Every company that's using AI out there, for the most part, has to use Nvidia.
Yeah, and early on, back in 2011, when I started my Bitcoin, I guess journey, you could call it, I was using graphics cards, GPUs to mine. You could mine 2.5 Bitcoins in 24 hours back then. And their technology, whether it was ATI or Nvidia, whatever it was, that it was the only method, those GPUs in order to mine Bitcoin.
Are you still
Um,
mining Bitcoin, Jason?
No, unfortunately not. It's not worth it. I actually have Esports Orlando. I was in communication with them. We were talking about um, they have 60, 30, 90s at any given moment running. These machines are always running, and they're trying to make passive income. But I would say mining at the consumer level is basically dead. In my opinion, I just don't think that there's any token out there worth mining. Between the electricity costs and the power consumption, it's just not
Now, how
worth it.
much would it cost, like, to mine a Bitcoin? What's it like? How long
Oh,
does it take?
geez. I guess it depends if you have the computing power to even do it. I don't even know what it would cost anymore. I mean, most of these facilities, they're running solar panels, they're running, all kinds of, they're trying to be 100% self-sufficient, right? I'm actually going to a mining conference in Miami at the end of this month, so I'm gonna come out there an expert. But as far as mining, I mean, my experience ended when I stopped using GPUs. But I'll tell you right now,
And how long would it take you to mine a Bitcoin?
back then it was like, you could mine 2.5 in 24 hours. But I opened my office door and I got hit with a 95-degree, width of air, and I live in Central Florida, so it was completely unsustainable. And I was like, yeah, okay, I'm not doing this anymore. And back then, Bitcoin was worth like $7 a piece, and I
Wow.
was like, this wasn't worth it,
And I hope you held on to all those.
Actually, I have, let's see, is the drive here? Yeah, I have it right here. Here, I'll pull it out for the camera. I have my original flash drive here with the Bitcoin wallet on it from college. Actually, I had just started teaching when I mined those coins, and the drive no longer works. And I formatted this drive for Windows 7 installation to teach students how to install Windows back in the day. So no, I no longer have those coins.
And how many
This has
coins
been
were on
torn down.
there?
There was only like 2.5 on here, but hey, it's still like what,
Wow,
120
that's
some odd
amazing.
dollars. Yeah.
Can you
So
imagine that today? The $130,000 on that little drive.
yeah, well, the thing about it is I probably would have sold it, when it was like $100 a coin, and thought I was a genius. So
we all go through those things, you know.
yeah. Well, speaking of blockchain, the tokenization of real estate and what blockchain we use will have quite an impact on how fast things will move along, right? Because Ethereum is widely used for tokenization, for its robust smart contract capabilities and widespread adoption, but it's expensive. It supports ERC20, ERC 721 standards. They're essential for creating fungible and non-fungible tokens. But there's so many other alternatives, and I think I'm leaning on Polygon for faster transactions and lower fees. It costs less than a penny to do a transaction, and it's extremely fast. And they also have a lot of history. They're decentralized security. The cost of doing business, the reliability is there. Unlike maybe something like Solana, where they could just pause your the blockchain at any moment. But what we have to do is set up custom smart contracts that'll handle the token creation, the transfers, property management processes, and those contracts will have to be thoroughly audited by reputable firms to ensure security and compliance, and also instill trust in the community, right? And then the legal framework, the regulatory compliance. We'll have to collaborate with legal experts. I'm actually in communication with a couple of them now. In fact, I had a interesting conversation with a gentleman that I just happened to be sitting next to in a restaurant. He was from, was it not Tokenize? I'm thinking of a different conference. But anyway, he was a lawyer in crypto. And sure enough, I was like, I'm going to, tokenize real estate. He's like, no, you're not. And I was like, why not? And so then we got into the conversation about how, ensuring compliance with SEC regulations, particularly regarding the issuance of security tokens, right? And then the KYC, know your customers, anti-money laundering procedures to verify investor identities, comply with regulatory requirements, that kind of stuff. And then, of course, we still have to, develop all this, platform, user interface, the property management integration, all that stuff. If we can bring it all in one umbrella, it'll speed everything up and make it all in one smart contract, right? And then, of course, you have security. The actual tokenization process is going to be different per property, because we'll have to figure out property valuation, right? And then accurately value that property to determine the number of tokens to be issued, use professional appraisers and market data to ensure the fair valuation, and then the actual token issuance. So we'll mint tokens representing shares of the property, and then ensure that each token corresponds to a specific value or percentage of that property. So figuring out how many tokens that we tie into a property is going to be completely dependent on the value. And so that should be really interesting, and kind of something I have to navigate and figure out as we move along. And then, of course, listing on exchanges, right? We're going to have to partner with reputable crypto exchanges, crypto.com. Hi, how are you guys? Coinbase, can you see me? So you will actually need them to list the real estate tokens, and we'll have to provide liquidity and a platform for trading. That's important. And then hopefully we can get on some DEXs and some decentralized exchanges to offer more trading options, increase liquidity, and then create a marketplace where people can actually buy, sell, and trade. And then, of course, moving into transparent communication, like I said, mentioned earlier with the DAO, regular communication with investors about property performance, market conditions, any updates, whatever. There has to be a system in place where we can be as communicative as possible and provide a lot of education, because I think, like, even judging by your questions, there's definitely going to be a need to support and educate investors about tokenized real estate, blockchain tech, and the benefits and risk involved, up and down, right? We're going to have to partner up with real estate partners. I think Propi or Propi, I think they pronounce it. They're tied into. They just made a major deal with someone. I think they're in their REIT model. But we're definitely gonna have to collaborate with real estate developers, brokers, property managers to ensure steady pipeline of quality properties. And we actually already have broker, property managers, and developers all under our syndicate right now. So we have a great team that we're building in the background. And then, of course, you have the blockchain community, right? We'll have to engage with the broader community, stay updated on, whatever technological advancements come our way and regulatory changes, make sure that we're compliant. And yeah, so, the approach ensures that we're compliant, we are enhancing security, and we're providing a seamless experience for everyone involved, investors, real estate, and, just making it more efficient and accessible to a broader audience. I mean, that's really the main goal here.
No, that's great. So we're coming up to the top of the show. Closing thoughts, and how do people get a hold of you, Jason?
Yeah, so I think if people are interested in learning more, to simply jump on YouTube and search tokenization of real estate and get a clear picture of, you know, how it offers numerous benefits for property owners, including increased access to capital, faster transactions, improved money flow, transparency, and then, by leveraging the blockchain, property owners can attract broader range of investors, maintain control of the assets, uh, and potentially achieve higher returns. And all the while, you're contributing to positivity community development and creating a sustainable, affordable living for the community. If you want to get a hold of me, you can simply email me at jasonstouhey@yahoo.com. That's my personal email. Um, our website, sovereignassets.co, should be up in a week or two. And you can also reach me on Twitter at SOV Assets, at SOV Assets. And if you want to check us out, our um, World Web 3 conference, it's at TWC Web 3 on Twitter as well. And I'll get those messages as well. So, yeah, so thank you, Gary, for having me on. I really appreciate the talk. And yeah, just fantastic. Thank you so much.
Yeah, let us know about your best. When's your next conference?
So the next conference, we're aiming for April 19th, and we're trying to have a very heavy focus on AI and gaming tech in the Web3 space. So that's kind of our focus. I'm still working on the finer details. We're pretty far out. So, but that's the plan. April 19th for now. That's the date I have locked in my mind.
Well, you do a great job. Thanks for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us. And thanks to all my audience for joining one more time. GSD Presents Silicon Valley AI and Tech. My name is Gary Fowler, and I'm your host. Stay happy, stay safe, and stay healthy. And I'll be back to you again soon with another exciting edition. Thanks a lot, Jason. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Take care.